My friends, I have an incredible human with me here today. Sheila, will you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm Sheila Cosgrove. I'm a career coach and strategist for successful women leaders. I help them have their dream career so they can make more money, get promoted, and do work they love while having balance.
Wow. Make more money and loving it. Like, I love the sound of that, Sheila. So, the work that you do is critically important, and you focus on women, correct? And helping us define what you and I were talking about in the green room is our value statement. Because there's been so many changes within the past few years alone with women redefining who they are and what they want in life. So let's talk a little bit about the value statement and what that means to you and how you present that to women.
Thanks. That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So, I think it's important for women to feel comfortable with and be confident in their value and also be able to communicate it. And a lot of women that I work with haven't really taken the time to do this. They're doing great work. They are very successful already, but in order to really grow and move up in an organization or even move to somewhere different, they need to really be able to talk about what value they bring. How do they contribute to the company's success? How do people benefit by working with them? And it just takes a little bit of time and some practice. And pretty much every person I've worked with can get to a great value statement that they're comfortable communicating.
I love that because we do all have something to bring to the table. And for whatever reason, perhaps we were knocked down and we forget what it is. So, what's step one in the process then in helping us realize how important we are when we present ourselves to potential employers or partners, in a work situation?
The first step is really asking yourself a series of questions and potentially getting feedback from other people as well.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I asked my clients to talk about what makes them unique. What are they
Mm,
what are they known for? What do they contribute to their team? And again, how do their coworkers benefit from working with them?
right.
So it's really a series of discovery questions that I take them through, and it really helps them to understand and maybe rediscover what it is that they do so well, that's helped them to be successful. So that would be
Right.
step one, is really asking yourself those series of questions. And when I say getting feedback from others, I also say talk to people that you work with and ask them specific questions about areas that they can give you feedback on. Not very general, or like how am I doing, but I'm working on this. Can you give me some feedback on how I'm doing right now and how I could improve? Or you can ask them the question, how do you feel you benefit, from working with me? So be very specific.
I love that because we forget. We forget our talents and skills because we're so used to doing things. And it is important to reach out and ask for feedback and not wait for the cyclical review, if you will, with feedback, right? We're nodding our
Right.
heads saying you don't have to wait, and it's best to just always be, on top of um, your top skills, even though you're not updating your resume, perhaps, but what we bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Is there something in general that holds us back from seeing our value?
I think women in general, as we know, have a difficult time really promoting themselves.
Mm,
Many women, not all women, absolutely. But I don't think that it necessarily comes naturally.
okay.
And I think that that does hold women back in some cases. And it may also be, the way that they were raised or the experiences that they've had that, make them hesitate, from talking about themselves or from really promoting themselves. So
Right.
again, it takes time. It's like a muscle. It takes time, it takes practice, but over time, it it can be done. You can do it.
Right, right. And in general, is it a specific amount of time or is it just different by each individual to help reframe this set of beliefs that we have about ourselves?
It is different by the individual. So it really just depends upon how comfortable they are, really bringing all those things to the surface. And that's what I work through with them,
Okay.
is to tell them this is not a time to be humble. It's not a time to hold back. And I give them a safe space to be able to do that.
Mm.
So, but it does take some people are on it and we can go through it rather quickly. And some people it just takes a little bit more time, and I might give them some homework,
Okay.
little guidance, and
Yep.
hold them accountable to kind of following through on that, to really like some thought-provoking questions I'll give them to really think about kind of offline, and then
Mhm.
we'll come back together and kind of work through it. But it never takes more than honestly a few weeks. I mean, some people will get through it in a week or so, and we'll have what they want to communicate, or some
Mm.
people want to take a little bit more time and get that feedback from others.
I love that. So without giving away any names, I think people remember stories. Is there a story or a case study that you can share with us with someone who had just a complete turnaround that will help emphasize the great work that you do?
Yeah, I do actually. And I've worked with a number of women that this has happened with, but one woman in particular I worked with last year who was doing very well. She was a director at a nonprofit, but she was really stagnant, and she had been doing this for a number of years, and she knew that she wanted more. She was ready for more. She was capable of more, but she wasn't really getting any traction in that regard. So we took a step back and we went through, as part of my work with her, and there were a number of other things that we did as well. But as part of my work with her, we went through this value statement process, and we talked about what her strengths were and how great the work that she was doing and what kind of results she was bringing to her organization. And at first, she thought because she was stagnant that she probably wanted to use that information to maybe land another job. And
Mm.
she went on a few interviews. She had some great results. But eventually, what she found was, as she started to feel more confident in her value and she was able to communicate it to her current employer, they also really started to see what her contributions were and really
Mm.
start to better appreciate the success that she was bringing for the organization. So in the end, she actually stayed where she was and was promoted to vice president, probably within about 5 months of working with me.
Wow.
And she got a raise, and she's doing really, really well, in now in what she's doing. She was doing great before, but now that she really can talk about herself and feel confident in that, she's doing fantastic.
Interesting. You just brought up a word, confident, because as I'm listening to your story, you were able to help her recognize her confidence. I would imagine that really does, you do a lot of that type of work. And somehow, for some reason, we lose our sense of confidence. If you were to take a guess, why does that happen? Is it because there's competition or things get harder? What is it that why do we lose our confidence?
I think as we grow our career, the higher we go, if you will, or the more success that we have, it gets more and more difficult to
Mm.
find those positions. So as you're starting out, maybe you're leading people for the first time or you're moving up in the organization. But as you start to grow even further, there are less opportunities, which means that sometimes when we have those interviews or we're being considered for those opportunities, it might be less likely that we get them. So I
Right.
think that can really knock someone's confidence. And it's not that they're not a great candidate necessarily. It's just that there's a lot more competition for a lot fewer roles, as you get higher up in an organization.
Yeah.
I do think that being rejection is a part of life, and it's a part of your career, and it's going to happen. And I think that some people, some women can brush that off a little bit more easy than others. And I
Right.
think that that really takes a toll on their confidence. And they maybe say, oh, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to put myself out there again. I don't want to take that risk. Right. And that really has an impact on their confidence in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such gratifying work, I would think. Let's share another case study or an example of success, if you don't mind.
So I actually was working with a woman who was in my opinion, was significantly underpaid. So
Mm,
she had taken on a role, and over the course of probably about 18 months or so, it had evolved. So there was more and more responsibilities put on her plate. She got a larger team, so she was managing a few more people, but her salary wasn't changing. And she knew that, she knew inside that the contributions that she was making were worth more than what she was being
mm.
paid. So the first thing we did was we came up with her value statement, and we came up with all these things that we've been talking about, how she
Right.
contributes to the organization, how her contributions are, how they constitute results for her organization, talked about how her role had started and how it had changed, right? And we also did a little bit of research in terms of salaries for the types of role, or the role that she was in, and other people who held that similar role either in her company or elsewhere, to the extent that we could get that information. And eventually she brought that to her director to say, here's what I started to do. Here's what's happened in the meantime and the evolution of this role. Here's what this role typically makes in other organizations. And this is what I would like to be how I'd like to be compensated for the work that I'm doing.
Wow.
And it did take a little while. It was a number of conversations, but she got a $17,000 raise, which was not a
Wow.
small amount of money for anyone at
Right.
the time. And she had just to take the time, to really
Wow.
articulate it, and be confident. And that's what we worked through together. And that is so gratifying, for me as well,
I
just to see people
bet.
get what they want.
I
So.
love that example. I
Mhm.
love, love, love that. That pulls together all of these pieces, Sheila, that we've shared today. That, and it's not to say that we're like intentionally underpaid. It's up to us as individuals to take charge of where we are on the pay scale and where we should be. And the work that you do is, like you said, it's got to be so gratifying. So if we were to share one final tip for the audience today, for women in general, because that's basically who we're speaking to, but just for people in general, I think this could go for both male and female. What should we have them consider today? Because I agree with you, there are less roles and more responsibility in these roles. So it's a very tight labor market. What can we advise, like the best piece of advice we can share with today?
I would say don't limit yourself. So there are certainly going to be some roadblocks in your way, and there's going to be also some great successes in your way, but don't be part of the limit on yourself, right?
Mm.
So know your worth, articulate your worth, communicate it, be confident in talking about it, and make sure that you're telling people what the value is that you bring. So don't limit yourself, I would say, would be the one quick piece of advice that I would give.
Brilliant. Don't limit yourself. I love that so much. And yes, that's for everyone who's listening today. Do not limit yourself. So, Sheila, my friend, and all of this fantastic work that you get to do with respect to confidence, is there something that you wear or an accessory or piece of clothing that makes you feel great? Is there something you can share with us?
Um, yes, actually, I wear hoop earrings every day.
Okay.
It's my thing. So they're small, medium, large. They shine, they sparkle. Um, and sometimes they look like Mickey Mouse. Whatever the case may be. I wear hoops every day, and that makes me feel great. So to answer your question, that's my one accessory that gives me a lot of confidence.
I love that. That's perfection. That's the perfect answer because it's yours and it's unique, which is what we're celebrating here today. So, if someone wanted to continue the conversation with you, Sheila, and learn more about you and this incredible work that you're doing, where's the best place for people to find you?
That would be LinkedIn. I spend
Okay.
a lot of time talking about these types of things and sharing resources and information with people on LinkedIn. And so if anyone goes to my profile, you'll be able to find all of that there. I also have a live masterclass coming up in a couple of months for people to join me live and talk about these types of things and get their questions answered and get some hot seat coaching.
Oh,
As
that's wonderful. Ah, what a great program. Well, I'll be sure to put that direct link to your profile in the show notes so that people can follow you and stay on top of the great work that you're doing and helping people succeed, make more money, and get to these great places where we belong that we're worthy of. So, my friend Sheila, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. It was great to be with you.
Thank you.